Hey everybody, it's showtime. Oh, we're almost in agreement. Almost in agreement at gmail.com. Find us on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. Go to the website, almostinagreement.com. Check out Election Guide 22. Early voting ends today, Wednesday the 2nd? No, Thursday the 3rd. Anyway, early voting ends very soon, so go to my my voting guide 22 on the website, and you can get a few interviews of the people that gave me the time to do an interview with, as well as some breakdown of the 4 ballot items. And we'll go over some more tonight. Go to your favorite podcast provider, give us a like and follow, a 5-star review. That kind of stuff helps us out to spread the word. Tell your friends about us. Keep doing what we're going to keep doing, and I don't even know what I'm doing. So anyway, this one's going to be a little weird. Not really. It's going to be maybe the new normal. I'm by myself again. But I've got some plans to do it, and we're going to do maybe a couple of different little subsections. We'll talk about it here in a second. So, intro, baby. Okay, so, like I said, by myself tonight, all night tonight, so we'll see. May not be the 2.5 hour show like we like to do, but we'll see what happens. I've got a lot of things to cover, and I'm not exactly sure the totality of it. I don't want to talk about the election. I don't want to talk about some of the dirty campaigning that's going on, and some other things, but there's 2 items of business I must take care of first. Number 1, I must continue to further correct. If you remember from last week, we talked a little bit about the voter suppression in Nashville, and it's half true, half not true. The more I read about it, and especially when you look at the turnout we're seeing locally, I don't know the Nashville numbers specifically, nor historically, but there has to be a cost involved. And if that election commission and administration decided to do less early voting locations for a portion of it to save some money, I get the argument. I'm not going to say that there was or was not intent to try to make it harder for certain people to vote or not. I can't speak to the intentions of people that I don't know. But I have to thank Brian, my nemesis, for kind of helping me correct that while making me look stupid. I did kind of poke that argument back to him on Facebook, and he did clarify the point. When we look at the Secretary of State's website, the dates for the locations in Nashville that there are like 17 of, only the administration office was for the entirety of the 2 weeks. Everywhere else started like this weekend or something like that. I don't know exactly the totality of it. So for a portion of it, they were running less of the early voting locations than anywhere else in the state. But they have been running the full 17 for the entirety of this week up to the end of early voting later this week. And then obviously they'll have all the precincts open as normal on Election Day. So we'll see what the results are in Nashville. On whether that makes a difference in the big picture or not. It could. I don't really think it will, given, again, what we're looking at, especially locally with who's been voting in early voting and stuff like that. It's going to be a crappy total turnout. Turnout is terrible. And those who are turning out are old. It's just the facts. So what do old, especially white people in Knox County, vote for? And that's what we're going to get. So we will see if there's any Election Day craziness, because there doesn't seem to be any history of Knox County having like a really strong Democratic turnout in early and mail-in, and then a really strong GOP turnout day of. It seems pretty much that as soon as those early votes hit, which is right after polls close, whatever those results are, tend to, unless they're really close, project out who's going to win. So if, for example, my 18, if Elaine Davis is up 55-45 with early election votes, it's likely that it'll end pretty close to that. I'm not predicting that's the case for that one at all, but I'm pulling up the early voting stats right now since we're talking about it. And I'm pulling up a sample ballot so I can kind of break that down here shortly. So as of Halloween, yesterday, there's a total of 46,000 ballots cast. Like I said, I don't know off the top of my head the comparable to. Realistically, 2014 is probably the correct one to compare it to, given the totality of what's on the ticket and stuff like that. We had we had more Senate races, or we had different Senate races. We had federal Senate races that we don't have in this one. We have a contested gubernatorial primary in the 20 or 18, so that's a different expected turnout and stuff like that. And if you guys recall, or you happen to listen to the Compass Points podcast when they talked about it, it seems that the early voters are from Republican districts. Again, does that mean they're voting for the Republican? I don't know that for a fact, but it seems to be trending that way. 90 and 13 have the worst turnout so far, and those are the two currently. I mean, we say 90 is currently held by Gloria Johnson because it's basically the new 13 or whatever hers was. And then Sam McKenzie's district, those have the least turnout so far. So I don't know. We'll see what that means. We'll be watching it rather closely. I will be, at least, and I'll pass it along to you because next week's recording series session time will be election night. So I'll be talking about that as it happens. I may even do a live on our I'll do it. I'll do live on the YouTube channel for those of you that want to turn in for my post-election analyses. Night of. I'll see if I can get some peeps to call in and give us some thoughts on what they've seen. And so I don't know, like I feel a need and I think it's appropriate. I was talking to a peer, for lack of a better word, today. I said, hey, did you early vote yet? He's like, no, I like to vote election day. It's like, okay, just make sure you know your ballot items because it's a lot of reading and it's not clear and understandable. And he's like, well, I was going to ask you about it anyway. I was like, okay, so let's talk about it. I think the easiest way to break this down is the 1 through 4. I always skip 1. I always go to 1 last because that's the one that I think has the most conversation to it. 2 is a yes because we're the only state that doesn't have something in place. It's a no-brainer to me, but let me back that up. I apologize. I'm not telling you what to do with it. You do what you think is appropriate. But 2 to me is there is a gap in what happens if something happens to the governor. We have an answer for if the governor dies, but we don't have an answer if something happens and he doesn't quite die. This corrects that to the record. I think it makes sense to have that on the books. You do as you wish. 3, as far as I understand, changes absolutely nothing, and a bunch of federal law supersedes it, so it kind of takes the winds out of the sails in that one. And 4 is also just completely pointless because it doesn't matter. Nothing will change whether we say yes or no to number 4. Clergy and such can still run, whether we like it or not. That's a federal one, too. There's a federal Supreme Court ruling that says that you just can't. But then goes to the number 1. Number 1 to me is not about unions. It's not about labor laws. It's not about right to work. It's not about whatever version of that phrase you want to call it. To me, number 1 is about whether you think it's appropriate for a current legislation to hamstring a future legislation on the issues of labor, if that makes sense. So it's not about labor and unions today. It's about whether you think it's appropriate for a future state legislature to have to go through the complicated process of an amendment change to change some of the labor practices in the state. And to me, again, not to tell you how to vote, but my personal take on it is, and as you guys know, if you listen to the show, I'm not a big union person. I'm not a fan of unions at large. I tend to assume the worst out of them because anybody that has a power structure is going to corrupt to that power structure, and the people on the top of it are going to take advantage of it, and the people on the bottom, who the structure is built to protect, are going to be one of the people that suffer of the corruption of power. Absolute power corrupts absolutely that whole thing. And so that's one of my problems with unions. But anyway, to me, I don't think it's appropriate that a legislative body today on this topic can hamstring a future legislative body. It doesn't make sense to me that if the state of Tennessee starts a blue wave, maybe it's this year, maybe it's 2 years from now, maybe it's 12 years from now. But if the state of Tennessee, I mean, hell, even if they could theoretically hamstring themselves, even if the Republican Party moves further left and gets more labor friendly for some reason, for whatever reason that happens, because the parties shift quite often. There are many issues that were Republican issues that are now Democrat issues, and there were Democrat issues that are now Republican issues. And they kind of flip, some of them flip back and forth from time to time. And so I just think it's this particular topic. If the future of Tennessee gets more labor friendly than it is now, and the population of it starts voting people in that want to be more labor friendly, that want more protections for labor, and this, that, and the other, it doesn't make sense to me that new body that gets elected will then have to go through the long process of a constitutional amendment instead of just being able to change the right to work laws that are currently on the books. Because again, that's another thing again about number one doesn't change anything. Every single item in number one is already on the books. It just changes how hard it is to change it in the future. I don't think it makes sense for this one personally. I think that's not the job of the legislature to hamstring future legislation. I not on this topic. I like on the slavery topic or on actual human rights topics or something like that. I understand those being protected for long-term whatevers and make it really hard for anything. And I think it should be really hard to change a constitutional item because it should be a strong hurdle. It should be important, and it should be elected by the mass. And we should do some real effort into understanding it and making sure that it's not just one. It can't get changed all willy nilly. That's I agree with that. So anyway, so for me personally, it's yes. I'm sorry, it's no, yes, 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 yes on the 4 ballot. No, yes, yes, yes. I think it's again. I don't think it's appropriate for that change, and everything else is just housekeeping. And I think it's appropriate housekeeping. I agree with it personally. So on to further down the ballot. There's more stuff. I'm going to kind of do. I don't know what I'm not sure on a couple on my personals, but I'll go ahead and share who I think I'm planning on voting for. And then I'll say who I think is going to win. So, my pick, who I personally plan to vote for, and who I think is actually going to win the race. I'm thinking I'm going to write in Governor. And I blanked out on his name. I should probably look that up before I say it. So, Wilson. It's a write-in candidate. LaMichael D. Wilson. I'm going to write in for governor. I think Bill Lee keeps his seat. I just don't see it. I don't see the issues that are so hateful about that the left is so upset about in the state of Tennessee being enough. I don't see enough. I just vote the R, whatever it is. People having enough wherewithal to see some of the issues with them. And, I mean, I don't think Dr. Martin's a bad candidate by any means. I actually think he's a pretty good candidate. But I don't see enough of the state seeing the value in anything about the Democratic Party to get him across the line. That's just me. So I'm going to throw away my vote on a write-in, libertarian, whatever. But Bill Lee's going to win that race. Honestly, I'm on the constitutional amendments. I already told you my yes, no, 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 or sorry, no, yes, yes, yes. I don't know what I think is going to happen to one. I mean, what's out there and conversated about, what I've seen in political backing, there are a couple of groups, especially on number one, who are doing paid advertisements for it. There's a couple of labor unions that are doing ads for it. There's a couple of ownership class, whatever you want to call it, that have some about it and protect our right to work status and stuff like that. And I mean, but I think the bottom line here is I don't think people understand it, because I had a conversation with somebody on Facebook a couple days ago, specifically on the topic, and they had no idea. They're like, I don't think that that anytime, anywhere, that they could make you join a union. And it's like, well, yes. Yes, they can. And they do. Just not in this state. And again, that one passing doesn't change that. It just makes it harder to change in the future. But honestly, I'm all for. Honestly, my kind of gut reaction is all four are going to fail. And not because there's not a majority of yes or no's, or not because there's a majority of no's, rather. I think there will be a majority of yeses on probably all of them, but I don't think it's going to cross the threshold that the yeses are 51% of the totality of of governor ballots. So even though it's a majority of yeses, it's not going to be a majority above that threshold. That's my guess, honestly, on all four. But I think number one is probably no, period. I just don't think it's going to pass. I think there's enough people that are going to do it and vote no that it may or may not be a majority of, but if it gets enough total votes to pass the threshold, there will be enough no's to make sure it doesn't get there. So I think number one is a no, realistically, and I hope it is. Like I said, that's my pick. I think, again, if it crosses the threshold, I think 2, 3, and 4 are all yeses. There's a little bit of skepticism in me to assume people are smart enough to understand it, because I didn't. I certainly didn't before I started paying attention. Because remember my rule of thumb, which nobody will confirm 100%. I talked to Massey about it. I talked to Chris Davis about it. Yes is to a change. No is to a stay the same. Except 2, 3, and 4 yeses are basically staying the same. Well, all 4 are yeses still staying the same. But to changing the document. So we have a constitution for the state of Tennessee. Yes, we want to change the document. No, we do not. That is the rule for constitutional amendments. That's the rule for federal constitutional amendments. That is the rule for city or county charter amendments. Same thing. Yes to change the document. No to leave it the way it is. So if you want to change to the new thing that the question is asking, yes, we want to change it to. No, we wanted to leave it the way it is. I think if they cross the threshold, I think no, yes, yes, yes. I can't imagine anybody saying, no, we want to keep slavery as an option. That seems unlikely to me. But anyway, that's my guess. I think Burchett keeps his House District Seat 2. Again, it's the same shit. To me, yes, I think the abortion issue is a big deal. Yes, I think some of the rhetoric's a big deal. Yes, I think that Trump affiliations and Jan 6 issues and stuff like that, I think those are big deals. But the rules, as I understand it, are when the current president sucks and the polling shows it. So this is an opinion thing for me. Biden inked up for a little bit, and then he started whittling back down now again. When the current administration is not popular, the other party wins. And you take that in a state that the other party already wins most of the time, I can't imagine that we have enough people. Again, Scott did some research on it for the Compass podcast. It does not appear like we did a Missouri thing where a whole bunch of women registered to vote that hadn't been registered before as a result of the Dobbs decision. So I don't see it. I don't see really any of these seats changing. I think the only one to me that actually really has a shot at changing is 90. I think pause, just for the sake of this, nobody knows anything really about them. And the GOP locally and the pause campaign and stuff like that have done a really good job of making Gloria look bad. They've been doing it for a decade now. It's a well-honed skill for that team. Agree or disagree with it, I think they've done a good job making her look a little bit whatever. I think it's a totally baseless, terrible argument, but it's true, for lack of a better word. She is totally ineffectual. She's accomplished nothing. It's not her fault she's accomplished nothing, but that's not how they put it. You know what I mean? Like, she puts things on the floor. Nobody votes for it because she's that loud Democrat that nobody likes. And then some Republican from some different district will put it on the floor because it was a good idea, and then it'll pass. So she doesn't get credit for it. And the pause campaign and the Knox County GOP the caucus to elect Republicans or whatever, is out there campaigning that issue hard against her. How many people out there, how many Knoxvillians in general, Knox County residents, how many District 90 residents who are actually going to get off their ass and vote understand that it can be a fact, but also untrue at the same time? Because it is a fact. She has passed nothing. Nothing that she has put on the floor has passed. But it's not because of what she's putting on the floor. It's because it's her. And it's not because she is unlikable or a bad person. It's because the party doesn't give a shit and they don't want to play with the Democrats. And she is a Democrat. But, so I think, I still, if I'm putting predictions on it, it's too soon. I'm not down that part of the list, but I'll say it anyway. If I'm putting predictions on it, I think Gloria keeps her seat. If I was in 90, I'd probably vote for Gloria. I don't like this silence from the Paz campaign. I think it's kind of fucked up. Not just to me, in general. I haven't seen him talk anywhere. Not that not to say it hasn't happened. It's certainly possible that it has happened. I just haven't seen it. I haven't seen it on the Compass guys. Haven't talked about being able to talk to him. Jesse keeps making the joke that he doesn't know how to pronounce his name. Pazkabut. Like, we don't know how to pronounce his name because he's never said it to the public. I can't get Chair Herrera. I tried to, since I couldn't get the other guys here tonight, I put in a desperate call to both party chairs. I was like, hey, why don't you come on the show tonight? Do your last pitch for your candidates before early voting ends. Get that last thing out to let me learn about some candidates that I haven't been able to talk to or something like that. They both ghosted me. Apparently Matt was doing some press conference this morning. We'll talk about that later. But the moral of the story is I don't know what that means for the electability of this Paz guy. But I do think that District 90, the new lines for that District 90, make it plausible that he could win. I still think Gloria wins it. That's my prediction on 90. I think Gloria wins it. If I were in 90, I'd be voting for Gloria. But I don't know. I don't know. District 15, we have this Pete Drew. Did I skip one? I did. Sorry. Jason Zachary, Amanda Collins. I can't get behind, personally. I think Zachary wins on my prediction. Zachary wins. But I think I would vote for Amanda Collins in that district. I can't get behind this whole thing with Vandy. It doesn't make sense to me. Like, Zachary's out there. He's the one that was, paying lawyers to sue the county schools to get them to take the mask off the kids. He's the one out there talking about parent choice this, parent choice that, parent involvement, parent rights, all that kind of stuff. And then he goes immediately to a thing that's taking away parents' choice. This Vandy thing, there's no kids walking in there by themselves getting shit done. It's kids walking in there with the parents, going through a long process, doing a lot of mental and emotional work, as well as physical work, as well as, all the other stuff that's going on. As far as I understand, that clinic that Vandy was doing for these kids it wasn't fly by night. It wasn't just throwing shit together. It wasn't giving it to them because they asked it. It was real physical and mental health professionals working with these families to help get these kids in a better place mentally and physically. I don't know how I feel about trans issues. I don't know. I really don't like the idea of a kid transitioning with or without his parents' consent. I really don't. I don't like the idea. When I was 12, I was going to be a baseball player. When I was 14, I was going to be a hockey player. And when I was 17, I was going to be a rock star. None of those things are true. And none of those things were true for much longer than the period of time that it has showed them. But again, that's not the point of what I'm getting to here. I can't handle the hypocrisy issue of the Zachary campaign out of one side of their mouth, screaming parents' rights, parents' choice, parents first, and then taking a very delicate issue and screaming and calling it child abuse by parents and mutilation from parents to their kids. It just doesn't add up to me. And it just doesn't make sense. So anyway, if I was in 14, I think I'd vote for Amanda Collins, mostly on that issue. She's kind of pro-weed. I like that. Of the issues that are at play right now, for the most part, I'm kind of leaning left to what I would call regular. This Pete, so that's 14, 15. Pete Drew, Sam McKenzie. I don't know. I have no idea about either one of these. Sam's been at it for a while. He's another ineffectual leader, for lack of a better word, but he's in the same boat as Gloria. all I've really heard is rumors about Pete Drew that he runs for office all the time. And apparently being a Republican and a majority black, because again, by rule, one of our voting districts for the House has to be majority minority, and that's District 15. So being the minority party in a majority minority district, it's a really hard banner to carry, for lack of a better word. So my prediction is Sam McKenzie for that one. I don't really honestly have a pick. I don't know enough about either one of them to say whether I would or wouldn't pick. So write in Lord Seth A. Barber for 15 if you don't know what you're doing. 16 is Michelle Carringer running unopposed. I would write in, who would I write in that I know lives up there? I'd write somebody in. I'll find somebody that lives in District 16. If I were in District 16, I'd write myself in. Because, right, Lord Seth A. Barber, but I don't live there, so you can't write me in. It doesn't matter. You can write me in as a throwaway. Anyway, so yeah, write me in for 16 if you're a 16 voter. Because you should make it as clear as possible that somebody should be running. Somebody needs to be running against this Michelle Carringer character. Because who cares what she stands for? Doesn't matter. She's just going to get the job. I don't even know if she got primaried. I don't remember. It's been that long ago. I'm going to skip 18. That's me. That's who I'm actually going to vote for because it's actually on my ballot. But I'm going to skip it and come back. Because there's a lot to say about this one for a lot of different reasons. So I'll come back to that. District 19, I have no clue. I'm going to say Dave Wright wins. But I would vote for Mary Ann Rochette because she's an independent candidate, and anything that says no thank you to the parties, I'm going to take. 89, Lafferty and MD Dotson. I don't know anything about MD Dotson, but Lafferty's the same boat as Zachary to me. They're the same ones that preach family first, to parents' rights, all that kind of crap, and then go and take parents' rights away. And then we already talked about 90. So District 90, I think Lafferty still wins. I don't know who the 19 will be. But I think Lafferty still wins, but I wish he wouldn't. That'd be my personal take. I think Sam still wins. Michelle obviously wins. So 18, here we go. All right, so 18's gotten messy, real messy. Kaplan put out a press release. He's got lawyers going out to somebody in regards to some of the campaigning that they've done against him. That are libelous and what sort. I'm not sure which one, because there's many that have gone out and about. But here, hold on one second. Okay, so like I said, District 18 being crazy. Wanted to wait till last because it's crazy and it's mine, and it seems to be... I think Keith Britt on the Compass Colloquy probably put it best, is that he said, quote, based on who's spending money, it's pretty apparent that both the Dems and the GOP see House District 18 as the most flippable seat in East Tennessee. I don't know. I disagree. Like I agree with Keith's sentiment. Yes, I believe that the parties are both believe that as well, but that's the same exact stance. That's the same exact feeling we had in 2020. And there's 1,000 factors to me. The more I think about it, Keith, there's a bunch of factors to me that you're missing. Number one, the direct easy history, 2020, the same conversation, and Manus won pretty solidly. There was a lot of talk. Couch can win this one. Couch can steal 18. And Manus took it pretty solidly. And I was thinking about that after... actually, I just had an error, so I'm redoing this segment. But I was thinking about that just a second ago. It's like you got to think 2020, when Couch was running against Manus. What else was on that ballot? How did that election look overall? The largest election in Knox County history, the largest election in U.S. history, but in Knox County, the most votes cast in Knox County ever. And Manus still won that seat. It says to me that 18 is pretty solidly right. Now, with the Catherine Bike incident with the school board in the August election, which does bring a little bit of question up, you have Elaine, who as a person might be fine, I don't know, but as a candidate is not particularly cool. I don't know how to word that. She's quite unlikable as a candidate. She has not had a lot of FaceTime publicly. She hasn't talked to a lot of people. She hasn't done a lot of interviews. She did have a conversation via Zoom with Greg and the Channel 10 team on that Sunday morning show or whatever a couple weeks ago, and she does not come off well. But Greg doesn't either to me. Again, I might have already said this, I'll say it again. This isn't a personal issue. I don't like you as a person, Greg. I don't like you as a person, Elaine. I don't know you as people, but as candidates, as persons who are going to represent me, especially you two specifically, because you two are running for my seat. 18, they don't, I don't know. Greg, let me do this real quick. Let me play this video, and we'll talk about this video for a sec.
A lot about someone by who their friends are. Greg Kaplan's friends. He's supported by radicals.
Okay, so I'm going to pause it right there before we get going. So this format, you could tell a lot about somebody who their friends are, was an Elaine Davis hit piece from a Testerman PAC, for lack of a better word, back in the primary, which is interesting to me in and of itself, but not important. So who are Greg's friends? Please tell us, Ad.
He's supported by radicals who stood with violent rioters and called for defunding the police.
All right, the radical that they are referencing there is Gloria. And I think that's a fair... I don't want to say Gloria's radical or whatever. That's not what I'm trying to get to. But to say that he's supported by Gloria is an understatement. He's running because Gloria asked him to. He came on the show and said that to me. I don't fault him for it. I don't mind. I have a problem with that in principle, and we'll talk about that in a second. But... that is a true statement. He is supported by Gloria Johnson. And if you agree with she's a radical Antifa riot friend, that's a separate part. But he's definitely supported by Gloria. And Gloria supported some of these issues that we had over the summer 2 summers ago. And now the second one coming up, this is a quote from his Twitter page. The last one was a quote from Gloria's Twitter page. This next one is from his. The quote is, "Sex reassignment for minors is a human right."
His friends say transgender sex reassignment for minors is a human right. Parents don't need to know.
Okay. I don't know. Parents don't need to know. I don't know if that's a quote or not. Don't know where that comes from. And it's quite a photoshopped image of him doing this face, which is kind of funny in a ridiculousness way. It's just like it's a weird looking picture of him. But I have complicated feelings about this particular trans issue. When I went on my Zachary and my Lafferty bit a little bit ago, I might be conflating the two because they're both kind of interchangeable as far as whenever I see them on the news or whatever. But the big picture story to me is that you don't get to say parents' rights and then now parents' right on certain things. That just doesn't follow. That just doesn't track to me. I don't know if transgender surgery I would consider it a human right either. But it's certainly a private medical right that you get to deal with on your own. It's none of my business. It's none of your business. It's nobody else's business as far as I can give a shit. So, that trans issue's got a lot of stuff to it. To me, I don't think it's appropriate. I think it's wrong. I don't know where Elaine stands on that issue personally. I got to guess, but I haven't seen anything especially specifically out of that. Yeah. Yeah, she doesn't seem to, at least on stuff that I have of her, she doesn't say she hates trans issues, so I don't know that specifically they're running against him. But anyway, there's a lot of things to like and dislike about these different candidates, but there's a lot of dirt going on. So Matt and Gloria and probably Greg, I know Greg had some legal action for this and some other libelous information that's been going out, and about how dirty this campaigning is getting. I'm sorry, guys, this ain't new. And it's not going to stop until we demand it stops. The problem is, it's both parties. Not locally, but it's both parties some places, some way, some shape or form. If the shoe was on the other foot, if the Democrats ran Tennessee and Elaine Davis was coming in trying to steal Greg Kaplan's seat, I'm certain that the Democrats in the state level or some Democratic caucus or whatever PAC would put together some hit pieces about how she's a Nazi or she wants to kill your kids or, well, she won't let you have an abortion, but she'll let your kids get shot at school, and similar things. So this is part of the game anymore. I don't like it either, but until we demand it stops, it's not going to stop because it works apparently. I mean, obviously it works. I think it's working in this particular race. I don't agree with it. I just think it's working. So anyway, a little more of this video and then I'll continue rambling.
And if you want to protect girls' sports, Greg says you're just a bully. Disagree, and they'll attack your character. We've seen this playbook before.
Paid for by the House Republican Caucus, not authorized by any candidate or its committee. So, you know, I mean, it's just a dirty attack ad. It's the way we do it. So, anyway, so District 18, it's mine. It's what I do. It's where I live. That's who I will vote for. And I, you know, and not that either one will give a shit and not that either one will pay attention to it, but they're not getting my vote. Neither one. Neither one of them deserves it. I do not like Elaine Davis as a candidate. Partially because she won't talk to me, but she won't talk in general. I don't know much about her. Everything I know about her either comes from a PAC or her campaign. You know, and it's all generic, bullshitty, standard political rhetoric that we're going through right now. She opposes big government spending and supports tax cuts with help with rising prices. Opposes CRT and supports getting back to teaching kids in schools, not indoctrinating them. Supports the Second Amendment and will never infringe on constitutional rights. Endorsed by Knoxville Firefighters Association, Tennessee Right to Life, National Federation of Independent Businesses, the NRA, and the Knoxville Police, which I don't know if she's fully endorsed by the entire police department, but she did get a fraternal order of police from one lodge of police officers in the city. Whatever. Generic. I mean, she is a generic Republican and not a particularly popular version of one. And Greg is running on I will be a blue piece on the chessboard for the team blue to move around as needed. I don't know how else to take Greg other than that. I understand as a freshman representative, you may not want to go neck deep and trying to put a bunch of bills on the floor, especially as a Democrat, because you're not going to accomplish much, not because you don't want to. But if he's just a run-of-the-mill, does what the party tells him to do individual, he's not going to represent me because the party doesn't represent me. Neither party represents me. They can't. They're incapable. So if the individual seeking the seat for my vote is just a party piece, I can't vote for him, and I won't. So my prediction for 18, Elaine Davis wins the seat. I don't see how not. You had the biggest turnout in history in Knox County. Menace still took that race against Couch. And all the different confounding factors, redistricting, changing it around, which my understanding of redistricting for 18 was more about making District 18 to primary Eddie out and more right-leaning than it was about really screwing with Gloria, and they did it both ways, so it's a win-win. So I think the Cat Bike situation is a little bit of, I guess, we don't quite understand the partisanship in school board races yet. I think there were some particular factors in the Will Edwards race, and it's a fucking Knox County general against a bunch of primary stuff. People get confused. I would say that a Republican who doesn't know any better, isn't paying attention, goes in for an August primary that has the county general on it, and they think they're only Republicans on the page. Because it's a primary. They're only voting for the Republicans, right? I'd say that's a contributing factor. Maybe not a huge one, but just off the top of my head, I don't know what the cat bike. I can't say what's the deal with the cat bike race. But again, tell me I'm wrong. Get on the Facebook page. I'll do a post about elections coming up and tell me my predictions are wrong. I'm pretty sure I'm going to hit most of them. So in a violent recap, nothing changes. I think the only real potential change is Gloria loses 90. That's the only one that I think is a possibility. Is Gloria might lose 90. I don't think any of the amendments pass. If any of them do, it'll be 3. But either they all, I think either 2, 3, and 4 pass or none do. But I think Lafferty keeps. I think Zachary keeps. Carringer obviously keeps. McKenzie keeps. Nothing changes. Nothing changes. It's just historically speaking on top of that too. So you got, historically speaking, when the people don't like the president, they vote for the other party. People in this area already vote for the other party, and the president is really, really sucking right now. People think the president sucks. Don't know what else to tell you. Don't know how else to deal with it. So, all right. So like I said, this is going to be a weird one. It's a solo show. I've been talking to myself for 40 minutes now. I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to come back with a premise for a future show, and I want to see what you guys think. So I'm curious your thoughts on it. So, music break. I'll be right back. All right, we're back. So premise I've had for a while, it just doesn't fit this show per se, but I'm thinking about starting it as a spin-off show, which would basically be like a daily quick hits, top stories, where to go find more about them. So I want to do a sample run of that right now, and so I don't have a theme song yet, so I'll just play some applause to run us in. So here we go, the Almost in Agreement Daily. All right, good morning, everybody. Today's top stories from around the media world of Knoxville, Knox County.
Are you skeptical of headlines and what you see on social media?
Somebody snuck an ad in, you sons of bitches.
The Verify newsletter helps you distinguish between true.
Damn you, WBR. So anyway, top story out of BIR. This morning we had Knoxville's looking to add some more affordable housing through some new projects. I don't know the deets on it.
Arthritis made my joints.
Shut up. So I'm going to have to work on this. This is a practice run, as I said. So City of Knoxville has discussed an option for affordable rental housing relief in Tuesday's City Council meeting. So that's going on right now as I speak. But anyway, some projects in North and West Knoxville. So again, point of this is there's still the headline out there. Channel 10's got a story on it. Knoxville looks to add more affordable housing through new projects. I'm sure we'll see something out of the Compass and some other ones. Actually, I can't even believe this is the top story. I'm going to make fun of this on the news, guys, a bunch. The top story right now today is University of Tennessee football is number 1 in the nation in the new rankings. It's crazy. Guess when the last time that happened? 98. Oh, good guess. Way to go, everybody. You're so smart. So anyway, that is the top story to me. Number 1 in the nation. And I mean, again, I'm not going to go down a bunch of sports rabbit holes. There's plenty of sports references here in Knoxville. You don't need me for sports. That's for sure. But if you just take a half a click and think about it, if you look around, it's Georgia, Ohio State, Clemson, and Tennessee. Those are the top 4 right now. Tennessee being number 1. Georgia hasn't beat anybody as good as we've beaten. Clemson hasn't really beaten anybody. Ohio State really hasn't beaten anybody. And not only beaten people, but beaten some decent teams by a bunch. And then, Alabama's still Alabama. We beat Alabama. This Georgia game this weekend is going to be massive. I'm excited to watch it personally. I think it'll be good football. I like Tennessee to win the game. I took them at plus 8.5 for sure. But I think they'll win outright. I think the dog status, I just don't see how you get them as a strong underdog, not a touchdown plus underdog. It doesn't make sense. If Tennessee loses that game, it's going to be a 100 combined point shootout like the Alabama game by a field goal, which we should have lost the Alabama game by a field goal. To be fair, we could have, whatever. So again, to me, I think it's a news story. I would like to see somebody help me understand the economics of what it does when Tennessee is good. I think it's huge. I remember working on campus when they were on the way down from I was on campus on 21, 22, 23, somewhere in there. That range. Like I was in band for a couple of years at UT, and then I started working on the Strip. And it was definite. It was clear. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm rambling. That's not the point of the show. So anyway, that's the top story, number 1A, out the door. Both News Sentinel and Compass have some pretty good coverage of the gentleman who they believe burned down the Planned Parenthood clinic. Was in custody, has since died in custody. So I guess there's no trial. We don't get to get the. I guess that's the end of the story. I hope that's the end of the story. As far as I hope that's true, that this guy was the one who did it, and we can move on with it. But this guy was also the guy that shot up the Duncan Federal Building and was the one who shot at Planned Parenthood prior to burning it down. So this guy had issues. We can play some rhetoric blaming and all that kind of bullshit, but at the end of the day, even people that hate Planned Parenthood and abortion and stuff like that, the right way to go about it is to elect the people to change the rules, which is what they did eventually, slowly. Took a long time to get there. So there's a minimal mental health issue somewhere in this, and that's what it is. So Knox News has got one, got some coverage on it, but I'm going to lean on Compass for most of the stuff most of the time because they have the best of the best coverage. Mark Thomas Reno is the name. He's from Jefferson City. He was also at January 6th. He is a member of the Catholic Militia, whatever that is. So this dude's pretty fucking crazy. So anyway, we talked about early voting in the other show that we're doing and combined with this one, but early voting is another big story. As per usual, Knox News says nothing. Not a lot of coverage on WBR as I've seen so far, but our Compass guys do the best of what they do. Of the 10 voting locations, historically, just under half of early voting, early voting is just under half of the total, and so it's a pretty low turnout. Last day is November 3rd, and then next Tuesday is Election Day. I'll be there. You should be if you haven't done yet. As discussed in the earlier portion of my personal show, Victor Ass and Eddie Menace both chimed in on the gross that is becoming this House District 18 race. Kaplan Glory Johnson. Let's see what else we got here. We've got a city council meeting tonight, as the WWR referenced. There's a gun violence thing going on at the Howard Baker Center. Got some visiting things like that. City Council has got this affordable housing thing. Compass has got coverage on it, just like I said, from WIR. Also on the City Council's agenda is a school violence prevention program. Knox County Community Development is to pay to surface infrastructure for the new stadium. And some Knox Entrepreneur Center stuff's going on there. So top stories to me, kind of running that whole little spiel down. Top stories to me, UT is number one in football. Deservedly so. We are pretty sure we know who the crazy guy is that burned down Planned Parenthood. Affordable housing is an issue that is being addressed by the city of Knoxville currently. District 18 is getting nasty again. Did it last time too. I don't know what everybody's freaking out about. It seems kind of normal to me. I don't know. Maybe I see it more because I'm in it. I think that's the top stories going on. There's inch progress going on in the baseball stadium around town. There's some new development on Central Avenue with some cool peeps that I like, but you'll see that in the coming days as well. But that's the top stories as I see them this morning. So check the weather. I'm not doing weather. So anyway, top stories. That's it. Have a good day. Okay, what do you think? I don't know. Shoot us an email, almostagreement@gmail.com. Go to the Facebook page, shoot me a message, something like that. Tell me what you think about that. Obviously, I need to practice it a little bit. It's first run through, kind of dry. But I'm not messing around. These UT football's good stuff. Anyway, so anyway, I wanted to shove that in there. Let you guys see. I'd love to hear what you think. If you have any comments or questions or anything, let us know. It's something that I would like to do. Like I said, as a spinoff. I wouldn't do it as almost an agreement. This also would require me to quit my day job. So, like literally that catchphrase, don't quit your day job. That's what we're looking at right here. I will continue this as a hobby in the time I do it. So, anywho, because then I can refer to myself. You know what I'm saying? Like almost an agreement is reporting So go check out Honest Agreement. I will plug myself to death anyway because I'm a whore like that. Anyway, so one last thing I want to do is we'll go about an hour. That's good, right? One last thing I want to cover, another colloquy discussion that I took part in this past week that I'm curious about because I get it and I don't. Like I get it, I do. So apparently in Arizona there are some like legitimate like people standing guard outside of polling stations, not affiliated with the local law enforcement or anything like that, not affiliated with the election commission or the staff running the elections, but people like literally standing outside with some guns. There's an intimidation factor in play there, which is inappropriate. I agree. And so I don't know, to pull to take some inner AC and bring it out into the forum, since he's never going to come on the show again. What is the definition of intimidation? I understand it's very subjective. It's very much up to the eye of the beholder. And so, Chris E. on the colloquy basically said, has there been any instances of voter intimidation during early voting here in Knox County, the kind that we're seeing out in Arizona where people are stationed outside polling locations, whatever? So Brian, my nemesis, says he's never seen it here. However, he's been voting since 92 and never seen it until 2020, when groups of men in big pickup trucks with big flags mounted on them driving along the lines of voters in loops over and over again. I saw it during early voting at Downtown West, and again on Election Day at Cedar Bluff Middle School. I guess that's where he votes. The lines of voters were long, and the display of those trucks along them in loops over and over again was meant to be intimidating. Obviously, it's MAGA stuff. Let's Go Brandon kind of stuff is what these trucks were flying. And I get where he's coming from. I get it. But I don't. I don't. Like, okay, fine. The Trump fan and the Trump flag thing is weird. It's different. It's abnormal to the process. We're used to bumper stickers and yard signs and stuff like that. But, I mean, if people supporting a candidate at the polling stations, which is what's happening, they're driving around in their personal vehicles, which happen to be big trucks, and they're rednecks, and they live in East Tennessee, so that's not an uncommon vehicle for people to drive, want to drive around and support their candidate, just like, I don't know, the people that stand there in all the matching T-shirts for school board seat 6 or whatever, that stand on the polling grounds within 100, right at that 100-foot mark from the door, so they can catch you on the way in and say, hey, make sure you vote for our candidate. I don't see the difference. My wonderful wife disagrees with me a little bit on that stance, but I get it. And I get where she's coming from, and I get where Brian's coming from, too. But I don't see the difference functionally. Now, dudes with guns, I see a difference. I don't know. I haven't followed the Arizona story as reference, but dudes with guns, again, it's Arizona. If it's an open carry state or whatever, you have a right to be on a sidewalk with your rifle, and if that's what you want to do with your life. I think it's kind of gross, and I see where people are coming from in the intimidation conversation, but what if it's just a random Tuesday and you're standing on the corner by a polling station with a gun, even though it's on an election day? Here's some weird dude standing on the corner with a gun on Tuesday. But anyway, that's not my point. My point is, I'm intimidated by old ladies. Like, white-haired ladies freak me out. My mom dyes her hair, thank God. I couldn't be around my mom if she didn't dye her hair. Well, there's little white-haired ladies that run the polling stations. That's intimidating to me. Fix it. No, come on. It doesn't make sense. Yes, it's annoying. Yes, it's intended to be intimidating. Don't be intimidated by it. What the fuck are they going to do? You think they're going to get out of their truck and beat your ass because you vote for Joe Biden? No. They're fucking peacocks, just like you. They want to bitch about it. They want to make a bunch of noise. But when push comes to shove, they're not going to fucking do shit. So quit it. Don't give them the fucking airtime by talking about them now. Because what's the solution, I guess, is the real problem. Like, what's the solution? We're going to make a law it's illegal to drive near a polling station with a candidate sign on it? How specific are we going to be? Are yard signs affixed to the side of a vehicle or magnets affixed to the side of a vehicle? Those are okay, but flags are not. Can you fly an American flag with your Trump sticker on the side of your car, or you can't even fly an American flag? You can't drive repeatedly on a public road in an area that happens to be near a polling station? Like, what's the actual solution you're asking for? And do you want to live in that world? I don't want to live in that world. I don't. There's no fucking way I want to live in the world where you get to decide what I'm allowed to do on polling station on voting day. I'm not allowed to physically alter. I'm not allowed to get physical with you. I agree with that. I can't walk up to you and say, "Oh, you're voting for Biden," and punch you in the face. That's fucking assault. I go to jail, and I should. I could stand on the corner and yell at you and say you're a fucking asshole idiot for voting for him. Right? I should be able to. Just like you should be able to stand on the corner and yell at me that I'm an idiot for voting for Trump, even though I've never voted for Trump and don't ever plan to. Moral of the story is, I don't want to live in a world where somebody's allowed to stop you. So why are you trying to stop somebody else? If there's direct threats, like Jim Bob hanging out the door of his truck saying, if you vote for Biden, I'll fucking kill you, then yes, that's a problem. They should go to jail. But driving around with a truck with a stupid flag on the back is not intimidating, is not something that should stop you from voting. And if you're so scared of a fucking flag on the back of a truck, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know how to help you. Mail in your shit. It's not that hard. Go early. Go day of. Go to a different section of town to early vote. Fucking go downtown. Go down to do it in the city county building. There's no way. You don't have to worry about some truck riding up and down fucking Gay Street and Cumberland and all that shit. Those guys don't want to be down there. If you're so scared of it, go to a different polling station. You have options. This isn't Nashville. See what I did there? Look, I'm not saying you shouldn't be intimidated. I'm not saying it shouldn't perk up and like your hair should stand up a little bit. You should keep your ears sharp. You should keep your eyes open and pay attention to these people. And if that counts as intimidation, then yes, you should be intimidated. But intimidation to me means that you are not just afraid, but you are afraid too, so you don't. So Brian, Chris, you other guys, it's not intimidation. Walk in there and vote. And if they try to stop you, then you call the fucking police. And if the police don't do anything, then tell me we have a bigger problem. We have a bigger fucking problem. If voter intimidation is allowed, where they physically say or physically stop you and the police don't step in, then we got some real problems, and that's something to talk about. But some fucking assholes driving around in trucks are not stopping you from voting. So quit fucking overreacting. And quit equating other Republican candidates to the candidates that fucking moron votes for. Some of them are. Don't get me wrong. Some of them go out of their way to say that they are. But don't let them stop you from voting, and they don't win. And if you think for a second that somebody didn't vote because those guys, I mean, really, I don't get it. Like, legitimately, do you think that little old lady in front of you in line was going to vote for Mr. Biden, but that scary guy in the truck, he's going to find out who I voted for, and he's going to kill my baby? You really think that anybody changed their vote because of that? I don't understand. Like, I'm sorry, I don't understand it. Like, again, yes, it is intentionally trying to intimidate. But how could it possibly succeed? Who is afraid of it? Afraid of it to the point that they don't vote? Afraid of it to the point that they change who they were planning on voting for? I don't know. If you're that unconvinced of your candidate that some guy in a truck driving by can scare you into voting for his guy, you weren't really hot on your candidate in the first place. So, that's my feelings on that. I'm sorry. Tell me I'm wrong. That's what I'm here for. I'll work on better arguments. I don't prep these things beforehand. Just thinking about it. There's something to talk about. I think we have bigger issues than idiots and trucks that we need to be talking about. Maybe that's a better way to push the point home. I think this fucking madness at Vandy's trans kid clinic is a bigger issue that we need to be talking about. I think Zachary and Lafferty and any of the Republican candidates need to answer that question. How do you justify saying parents' rights, parents' choice in one hand, and then this in the other? It's bullshit. It doesn't make sense. That's a bigger issue we should be talking about. That should be taking over the conversation. But we're not. We're talking about idiots and trucks. Not to mention, fucking Christ almighty, like the average age of the early voter so far is 70 plus years old. Congratulations, Knoxville. Congratulations. You are run by boomers because you're too lazy to do it yourself. So, anyway, congratulations on that rant, on that terrible disappointment. I think that's it. I kind of like this. I had fun. I hope you did too. So, good night, everybody. Fully solo, almost in agreement show. I did it all by myself for a whole hour with some multimedia and some ranting and raving and even a little bit of cussing. And a 10-minute segment that I wouldn't use in a future solo show. But anyway, we're Almost in Agreement. Almostinagreement at gmail.com. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Go to the website, almostinagreement.com. While you are there, check out my Voter Guide 22. Early elections ends on Thursday. And then Election Day is next Tuesday, obviously. So, number 1A, make sure you do some research on your ballot items. You're only going to have 7, maybe 8 items on your ballot. I forgot to predict that one. Briggs wins Senate 7. Sorry, Langan, I like you better anyway. But you have 7 or 8 items on your ballot, depending on where you live. 4 of those items are those ballot items. Just figure it out. Figure out what they are. Yes changes something. No leaves it the way it is. Really, nothing changes anything. Technically, but whatever. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, favorite podcast provider. Like, share, friend, follow, all those things. Tell your friends about us. Get the word out. We're going to keep doing stuff. Hit me up. Shoot me some emails. Message me on Facebook. I want to hear from you. Good night, everybody.